Go ahead.
And then you, Coach, how are you, buddy? Is there anything right now you're concerned about with your team? Is there anything that you think about before you go to bed that bothers you?
Yeah, like a whole computer full, you know. But my main ones are we gonna think we're as good as people think we are? Are we gonna realize that we've got a long ways to go? And I only say that because Josh Langford, one big factor. You know, we've lost 30 points and 15 rebounds. And once Nick got hurt, Xavier came in and played well. But don't forget, Nick was a guy you could throw it into the post, and you were getting a bucket or you were getting something. And in Kenny Goins, he averaged 9 rebounds a game, could guard anybody. And in Matt McQuaid, he was probably our best glue guy. So now, where is Josh? 7.5 months off. He's doing better. He's practicing just about full. But how long does it take to get that back? Do we... how do we adjust to Cassius and all the fanfare he's going to get? What does he do with it? People are going to guard him different. We're going to have to be ready for that. And I think that, the biggest one, though, is can we adjust to, we've always been high up there, but when you're one, it's kind of a bigger spotlight on you. And I think that is taking some adjustment. I mean, nobody's gone end-to-end to me since Carolina in 09. Before that, I don't remember anybody for 10 years. We weren't picked one when we won it. So I think we got a lot of things to worry about. We're not the Carolina team of 09 that had 4 pros that decided to come back to win a national championship. I mean, some people argue whether we have any right now. Nobody's on all the draft boards. But I think we got damn good players, damn good kids, and a balance of a point guard, a wing, and Aaron Henry right now, and an inside guy and Tillman that are really good. If Langford ends up that, then we only have one kind of weakness, and that's our 4-man and what we do there. And we've got a bunch of different options.
What does it say about your team, Tom? Number 1 in the country. There is absolutely 0 concerns in the classroom, 0 concerns outside of the basketball court. You got guys that want to be coached and they love the game. I mean, does it get any better than this?
No, that's why last year was so much fun. Now, in saying all that, how do they react when the lights go on this year now? Because if we are fat and sassy, we're going to get knocked on our butt early. You open with Kentucky and you got Duke 2 games later. If you get, whatever means getting by that, then you go to Maui and you're going to get a lot of good teams and potentially Kansas. And then you get by that, and Seton Hall might be as good as anybody we played with 8 other top 9 backs. So I think the good news is we've scheduled so that if we think we're better than we are, we're going to get knocked down. The bad news is how do you handle some defeats early? What if Josh isn't ready to go? How do you handle those? How do your community, your fans handle those? And even the players, I mean, it's one thing to be able to be cruising along like last year. We weren't picked real high, but we were picked high. But now you're picked on top, and you've got to deal with that. I think Cash has said it best up there. Do we do the things that keep us? Do we remember what got us to where we were? And I think our chances of good of having that. Then you got to be lucky with injuries and all the other things that go with it.
With that schedule, these guys had gone through that similar thing with Hawaii trip and everything else early in their careers. And it kind of comes full circle for them here. How do you think that they handle things maybe a little differently this time?
Well, the interesting thing about that is, that was the least amount of wins we've had in the last 7 years. But the good news with that is, hopefully we won't have the injuries that we had that year, with all those bigs and everything. So I'm gonna reflect back on that with them. No, I mean, there's been more meetings, there's been more half-hour talks in my office with each guy. Sat Cassius down and spent a week with different topics every night, and just trying to get to let them know that this is going to be a little different, and you're going to have to handle it a little different. But the basics are you still got to, defend, rebound, run. You still got to execute better, and we got to do a better job of not turning the ball over. So the basics are still the basics. It's what the social media and expectations do and how we handle them that I think will determine the exterior part of the game.
Is anybody standing out at the 4 through a couple weeks of practice? They're pretty wide open.
You know, Kithier has played really well, and yet Bingham has had his moments when he's been. Those two guys have probably showed the most. We also looked a little bit at Gabe Brown at the 4 if we wanted to go a little smaller because he's such a good rebounder. So we purposely have rotated guys. We've even put Malik Hall in there, but Cash was out with a little hamstring, just a pull, so he missed a couple days, and Josh has played most of them, but we rotate him with Kyle Arns. So what we really need to do starting next week is get that first group together and put a 4-man in there and see how he plays with the other players instead of with subs at those positions.
The way the game has changed, is that 4 become a 3+ or 4+ a lot of times too in regards to matchups and teams and opponents where you have to have flexibility.
And I think we've got that. We've got a shooter in Bingham, but you know, whether he can guard a 4, but I think you know, there is no numbering system anymore really the way it is, but if we do play Bingham, he could guard a post and we could have Xavier guard a 4. So we have some versatility in that area, but it's going to be interesting to see how they work together, you know, and we just haven't had, like we went half the summer with no Arns, half the summer with no Langford, and no Rocket. And then the second half we had Rocket Watts, and we had probably Kyle Arns at 85%. And we had no Langford. By the end of the summer, you know, we got him back, but he's a very important cog to the wheel.
Coach, in your 3rd year, you brought this team to the tournament. How important is year 3, given maybe Illinois and their chance in their 3rd year with Brad?
Well, I think what Brad did is he kind of changed the culture after his first year and started getting guys in that, the way I phrase it, OKG, our kind of guys. He needed his kind of guys. And with Ao and Georgie in there in the center, I mean, he's got 2 of his kind of guys. Now he put some of those other guards around. They play so doggone hard that once they understand the culture, and it takes a while to build it, but I think years 3 and 4 are not necessarily the biggest years from winning the league or getting to a Final 4, but they're very important in how you develop your culture. And if you can keep that and grow from it. So I think this is a big year for him. I think he thinks it's a big year, but I don't think it's a do or die year because he's just starting that. You know, after his first year, he cleaned up a lot what he needed to clean up. So last year was the first year with more his kind of guys.
When you came to the State Farm Center and played against Illinois, given what you saw and from the team, do you think they're a little underrated headed into the season?
I saw someone that had them 8th or 9th. I got them like 3 and 2 and 4. You know, I really think they're a lot better. I think that's the one team, one of a couple of teams that I don't know who's picking that, but nobody asked me because I would not have put him there. Now it gets hard. Who's 3, who's 5, who's 7? But, I mean, Illinois, even in losses, were so competitive that the addition of a couple new guys and guys that were out, and then the growth of Ao, I think makes them a legitimate upper division team that can compete with anybody.
We know Xavier is not your typical college student. He had another big summer, gets married, and got another child on the way. But he's also talking about the time he's worked on his game too. How have you seen him, I guess, continue to mature and be able to balance all that, yet still focus on?
You know, and last week he, I think he was one of my, not first, but few players that he gets the academic award at our football game. He's carrying a 3.64. He's going to get the job done in the classroom. I'm hoping he'll be our next academic All-American. And it's amazing what that kid has done. I couldn't have done what he did. And let's face it, 9 times out of 10, those become problems or disasters. For some reason, he's used it to motivate and lift. And he has done I mean, there hasn't been a guy that I know that I coached that has dealt with as many things. So dealing with, the rankings and all that, I do not think is going to faze him. He's been pretty grounded in everything he does, but there is going to be more on his plate now, and just another part of this whole deal that you're trying to get everybody to get better each day and be good at the end of the year.
He said too, his wife's due in February. I'm like right in the middle of Big Ten season, Andy. Like,
yeah, if I got a man, I'll doctor that thing, get the old catcher's mask.
Have you told Tamia she's not?
It's year 25. Have you taken any time to reflect on any of that?
I haven't. They asked me today. They keep calling me the elder statesman. I had to speak at the coaches meeting last night to Jim Delaney, and I realized the only reason they asked me to speak is I'm the only guy that was here just about his whole career, And that's the good news and the bad news. But I think what excites me about year 25 is we've really been pretty damn consistent, and that means a lot to me. I think it's easy to have a good team or a good couple years, but if you can consistently stay where you're competing, or every year you think you have a chance to win the league, or every year you think you have a chance to go deep into the tournament, that I couldn't ask for more out of my career so far. Now this year I'm going to ask a little more out of my career because I'd like to get that second one sometime, And don't miss, I don't know if I missaid it or it was misquoted. It wasn't really a quote, but I don't think I have to win another one to validate what I've done. I think I have to win another one to validate what I want. And that's different. I don't look at things as I'm to the point where I don't have to please as many other people. But I still always said, you guys think we should do this and that, and I bitch about you guys saying those things sometimes, and I think I want more than you guys want. So why am I bitching at you guys when I probably want more than even you want or think? And I believe that, it is getting harder. There's more distraction. We spend half our time up there talking about, whether players are getting paid, whether politics is involved. You think of all the things. Those two are all distractions. What a kid has to go through now, you got to just beat the hell out of people and play hard, and you're a damn good player. You didn't have all these other things to deal with, You're getting so old that Twitter wasn't invented when you were there either, so you're no different than me. But those things are all factors that these kids got to deal with every day, and it's amazing when you think about it, to keep consistency. So that's what I'm probably proudest of.
Your guys all got off Twitter. They decided to all get off Twitter.
Yeah,
probably a happy day for you.
It was happy, except that they got these other things, like Snapchat and what are the other ones, So, Twitter is something because I don't like when they read what everybody says, because I think that screws up more kids. I really do. It screws up more people. If it means that they're going to take that 7-8 hours of social media that the average college student is doing, and we can get it down to 5, I'd be happy. But if they change Twitter into Snapchat or something else, it's still a waste of time to me.
Stoke mentioned the other day with Steven on the team. Does that put you here for at least another 4?
No, Steven wouldn't put me here for another 4. What'll put me here for another 4 is the state of college basketball, whether I have the energy and enthusiasm to take the red-eye flights from Vegas, whether I enjoy the grind, and I don't see that going at all right now. But, Steven, he could be here a year, he could be here a half year. I might kick him off the team, I don't know. But that won't be my determining factor of what I do. But it is. It's been good. It really has been good. It's just a little different, but it's been good. But for me, the day, and I said this, and I will say this, but I don't even really want to talk about it because I don't plan on being done anytime soon. But the minute it's always going to be no fun when you're going through it, And if catastrophic things happen, which has happened here before, it makes it different. But for the most part, as long as I enjoy what I'm doing, get to work early in the morning, still go to all my football games. I don't plan on leaving. Keep recruiting good kids. I like where I'm at right now.
Coach, this league's always been good, but can you talk a little bit about just the depth of this league now, and especially with the 20-game schedule, how much of a grind that is when you get into conference play?
I tell you, when we went from 16 games to 18 games to 20, every time we added 2 games, you feel like you added 4. And yet I really do agree, you know, I'm not giving him credit because he's on his way out, but those are some of the great things Jim did. He has the foresight to realize that it's probably going to help us in the long run. And the greatest compliment you can give is somebody copies you. Well, people are copying us on the Big Ten Network. They're all coming to it. People are copying us on extending our games. You know, we were one of the first to go to 20. I don't know if we were the first, but one of the first. You know, but it is a grind. It is a grind, boy. Those conference games, the worst conference game is a lot harder to win, especially on the road, than a good non-conference game. It's just because everybody knows everybody, the fans, the players, keeping guys up now is probably the hardest thing. You know, keeping them up and away from the distractions is harder than it was 10 years ago.
Tom, your view of that second national title, how has it evolved? You mentioned validate, and you say it's won. How has that evolved over the last?
Because when they say I won a national championship, now I'm having trouble remembering when that was. That's how it's evolved. It's been so long ago, Teddy, I can't even hardly remember it. But what keeps me going is we're knocking on the door quite a few times in that period. It's just, I want, you know what I want? I want our fans, I want our players, I want our media, I want everybody that's involved with us to be able to share in something like that, because it is one of those once-in-a-lifetime things. I just being greedy and I won it twice in my lifetime, you know. But it is it's something to shoot for, and you know, like last year, I thought we were knocking on the door. I'm not sure it was our greatest team. I think if Kyle Arns, if we would have stayed a little healthier, but that's always the case. If someone else would have been healthier, we might not have won the national championship. You know, if what's his name at Cincinnati, Kenyon Martin doesn't go down, we would have been a 2 seed. We wouldn't have been playing in Cleveland. We might have been, you know, they might have been the best team in the country. So I realize you got to be lucky, you got to be good, and yet we're knocking on the door. You know, you cannot get there if you're not knocking on the door. And nobody gets into a house that they don't knock on the door. So I'm knocking on that door. The damn problem, my wife won't let me in, you know, and right now I just like to get in that door again.
Tom, you mentioned all the people that Cashel is going to have this preseason and everything. What have you seen in him that is going to make him able to handle that?
Well, he's shown a great ability to kind of be unflawed. You know, he doesn't get frazzled very often. That's why I call him, you know, sometimes cool Cassius. Cool casual Cassius. Okay? Sometimes that's a compliment. Once in a while it's an insult. But the insulting part of it still makes him able to deal with things maybe better than I do, where it's a little more up and down. You know, he just has that steady flow to him. And I think he is hungry. You know, I do think he realized he had to get stronger. He did a hell of a job in the weight room. We'll see on his defense now if that gets better, but I think that needed to get better. And I think his vocal leadership needed to get better. You know, I'm trying to convince guys that if you have all the knowledge in the world, you don't share it with somebody who gets the knowledge. And so we're trying to, you know, to do that part of it. But I see him wanting to. I see him coming into meetings more and talking more and coming by the office more. And I just think he has a feel that, you know what, this is my chance now, and I need my teammates with me. You don't get those assist records if your team isn't making shots. You know, they don't count it when you pass to yourself. And so I think those things are all important.
Xavier said he thought Cash was gone. I think Xavier thought a lot of the players thought Cash was gone. Did you think there was a good chance he was going to come back?
You know what? I didn't think he was gone. Number one, you know, I know enough people in the NBA to kind of know where they thought he was. Number two, he's got a mother that thinks he should get his master's done and probably his doctorate started. And I'm dead serious on that, right? So that wasn't flying so good. So I did not think he was gone, you know. Remember this about players. By next year, there'll be a lot of guys think my son is going to be gone. You know, they all think everybody's gone. You know, the Pistons are at our place right now doing their winter camp. You know, they're doing our place this year. And sitting there with those guys and realize how many good players are out there practicing and not even going to make the team. Our poor guys have such a distorted vision. And it's caused by all of us, you, me, the society. We all cause it, and I just think that, you know, it's funny when you think of it that way. You know, that everybody thinks they're going next year. You know, I probably got 5 guys think they're going next year. You know, if I got that many good players, I better win it all. But I don't see my team like Carolina's was when 4 came back to win it.
Chambers, Guard, and Hoiberg all talked about you calling them, advice. Greg Guard, you've called after he beat you, and then after you beat him to give him advice when you had to play him again, about what you mean as a mentor. I know respect matters to you. What does that mean to you? These guys do look up to you, and all 3 called you a mentor.
Well, that means I'm getting old. That ticks me off, if you want the truth. So tell all 3 of them that I'm ticked off at them. But what I do like about it is Judd was the ultimate, cared about the profession, the program. You know, when I came in the league, Bobby Knight, Gene Cady, Clem Haskins, those guys all helped me grow, and I had to do it their way. You know, they told me, you'll lose to me for 3 years, then we'll let you go, you know. I said, okay, you know, whatever. But they did a lot for me. And I see some of these guys now, I mean, you're getting fired when you get hired. You know, usually you got a couple of years, and it's so much harder. You know, I feel for the guy at Rutgers now in football, and, you know, that's just the way it is. So I know that how guys feel. I know when I thought, you know, I didn't buy a house the first year I had the job. I was waiting until I kept the job for a couple of years, and that was back 25 years ago. So now, you know, I might rent for the first 7 years now, because you never know what's going to happen. But I do care about the coaches. I do care about Michigan State. Everybody knows that. But I do care about the Big Ten. I'm a Big Ten guy. I love the Big Ten. But I do that too. You know, I've gotten to know a lot of people by just cold calling, whether it be our coaches or others. You know, I talked to Bobby Bowden the other night. Did you see that special on him? It was Faith, Family, and Football, the Bowden legacy, and it was awesome. And I just called him to tell him how great I thought it was and get a little advice. I mean, I think that's the coolest part of my job. And now that I've gotten at least enough credibility that I call people like that, they'll pick up the phone. It's really, it's worthwhile. So why shouldn't I share with the younger guys things that I've known, and I feel good about that.
Cassius Winston said it's fun to be top dog. That's what he's referring to preseason #1. What are your thoughts, and how have you maybe handled that in the past?
We'll see how much fun it is on November 5th or whatever, you know. Sure, it's always fun at the beginning. But I think it's a privilege. I do, and I try to tell my guys, we can't look at this as a burden. We got to look at it as a privilege. We have earned the right to be one off, and so they flip a coin. Somebody's got to be it, and this time the coin turned green. You know. But we know that there's always 8 or 10 teams that have a legitimate chance to go deep into the tournament every year. Of those 8 or 10, most don't make it. So we know that too, you know. But I think that we are embracing it. I don't think we're thinking we're bigger. But now things start, you know, the camp out, Midnight Madness, the exhibition games. And you get a real feel whether
going back,
they're drinking their own Kool-Aid or not.
Going back to Xavier, I know a lot of news has been made about Cassius' decision to come back, and I'm curious, during the offseason, was there any conversations between you two about even testing the draft waters at all?
With Cassius?
No, with Xavier.
With Xavier? You know, I mean, there's always talk about it. You know, everybody has the opportunity to do that. But I think the problem is everybody thinks, well, I'll just test the waters, see where I am. When you test the waters are testing you. You test the NBAs are evaluating you. And you better realize that every time you're getting evaluated, and when you start testing the waters and they can bring you in and do things, if you're not ready for that, it's not just go back another year. Sometimes it damages you beyond that. So this thing about testing the waters, I say you test the waters if you really think you're good enough to go, and it's easy to find that out. A lot easier to give you a solid chance if Xavier Tillman, if Aaron Henry, or if Steven Izzo gets good enough to test the waters. I'm all for it, but I'm not for guys testing the waters just to do it, and then they go get evaluated, and you know, we don't know about the pitfalls in a lot of this stuff. We just look at we just look at one part of it. There's two parts to every story.
Jack Hoiberg is a guy, a point guard on the #1 team in the country that's all the guys talk about as a leader, and he's not Cassius Winston. I talked with his dad about the fact last year, watching him get on Cassius during an NCAA game. Is that a reflection of his dad, that he's so loved by his teammates, but he is a coach?
He is a coach. I think he's, you know, Freddie's a little bit more like Cassius. He's a little more steady, you know. Jack's got a little fire. He's got a little Izzo in him. He's got a little. I think of the right word here. You know what word I'm thinking about. He's got a little bit of that in him, and I love Jack Hoiberg. He's just steady every day. He goes at Cassius every day. He's a very good defender. He's worked on his shot. Jack Hoiberg can play, whether he does this year or not, but he can play, and he can play somewhere, but he is a damn good leader and damn good student. He got all the qualities of his mother, because he didn't get the height of his father, and his mother, maybe he's got the rest of it.
You've talked, though, Tom, for those of us that covered you a long time, people don't understand the guys at the end of the bench being glue in the locker room towards championship teams. Is that what you're looking for when you want glue?
It is those guys. It's the guys that make you practice harder every day. It's your scout team. It's the other players. I mean, when I look back on our championship year, I want you to think of some of the players moving up to that year. We had Mike Chappelle on the scout team for a while. We had David Thomas on the scout team for a while. We had Adam Wolf on the scout team. We had some damn good players on the scout team, and that's what makes your regular team better. And those guys, I mean, I got a great scout team right now, but I just don't know how many of those scout teams could move up a little bit. How many of those other guys might move down a little bit. What I have is a lot of good players. The problem with that is maybe not enough great players to separate themselves. So you got a lot of players that each day are a little more competitive, and that's probably good news in the end.
Coach, on the point of the preseason accolades, you guys come in widely expected to be #1. It's not official yet, but out of all of the talented teams you've had here, let's say Mateen Cleaves' senior year, where I believe you came in at preseason #3, Keith Appling senior year, where you came in at #2 and you played Kentucky, Kalen Lucas #2, junior and senior year. What does it say about this team that this might be the one that earns that #1 spot? Out of all
well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because we were 2 when we played Kentucky. It was 1, and they had the 40-0 shirts.
Yeah.
We aren't making any of those, you know. There'll be no 40-0 shirts because, #1, the schedule we play, but #2, that puts so much more pressure on the team. It's not good enough to be playing at the end of March or beginning of April. Now you got to be undefeated, and you know, we're not that kind of team. We're just not talented enough game in, game out. But I think we just got to learn from the past, you know. You have to learn from other teams. You have to learn what went wrong. We have to learn from 2011. Why were we picked so high and we barely got into the tournament? It's one of the few times that I thought we totally underachieved. What were the reasons for that? Some of it is fat and sassy. Some of it is not work as hard as you did before, you know. The advantage of being an experienced coach and having an experienced staff is you remember those things. The disadvantage is telling players that they think you're speaking a foreign language. you know, and like all of us, until you go through something, it never hits home the same. But if we're going to be great, they've got to listen, and that's why there's been a lot more individual meetings, a lot more just spending time with a player. And that's the way I'm trying to combat the social media, the expectations, by having more meetings and explaining this is what happened before. Then I have some of those players come in and talk to them about it, and that helps too.
In the past, you've talked about maybe some guys coming in thinking they were a little entitled because it's Michigan State. You're now, starting with this year's freshman class, Tom, getting kids who weren't even alive when you got your next national title. Does it help that they're that far removed a little bit?
You know, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. The bad news to that is they still, I think, feel Michigan State. We've been in 5 Final Fours in the last 15 years, so that gives you a little bit there. But I do think our freshmen this year, including Rocket, are not acting entitled. So is that because the culture is so that our seniors and juniors are explaining it? Is that because they weren't alive when we won it? Those are good questions. I'm going to have to put that in the memory bank and think about it.
Following up on a previous answer that you had, you mentioned that Bob Knight helped you when you were becoming the coach in the Big Ten. What kind of relationship did you have with him, and how did he help you kind of adjust to the Big Ten?
Well, him and Judd were good friends, and I remember I hardly even met Bob my 13 years as an assistant. The day I got the job, he was one of the first guys I got a call from, and I'll never forget my most favorite Bob Knight memory is he had a real good team, we had a real good team, and it was getting late in the year, and we beat them down there pretty, I won't say handily, it was a big game, CBS, the whole works. And we were celebrating the locker room because it was 2 games to the end of the year. We had locked up the Big Ten championship. And Quinn Buckner's son knocked on our door. He was a manager for Bob. He said, Coach Knight would like to see you in the war room. And I said, oh, geez, here we go, you know. And I went down there, and he told me I thought I had a good enough team to win it. He told me some 4 or 5 things to watch out for. And then he slapped me on the backside and said, get out of here, you know. And sure enough, we did go on to win it that year. But, you know, everybody has different thoughts and stories on Bob Knight. For me, he was a guy that was passionate about what he did. 99% of his players loved him and still go back, still talk about him. And me as a coach, it was my first Big Ten win was against Bob. And people told me, well, if you win some games, he won't be the same. And he was always the same. I think he respected that we didn't cheat. He respected we did it the right way. He respected that I was just a grinder like he probably was. So great admiration for Bob.
Patrick Chambers was talking about the story. You called him when things were going tough last season. As the dean of this league, how important do you take that reaching out to some of these guys when they need it?
Well, I think it really important, but I had an unbelievable mentor, you know. Judd was one of the deans, but every year he was the head guy. He was the captain of the coaches. Big Ten coach, every year they'd pick a new guy to be like president, and Judd just kept it forever because he accepted it, wanted it. Knight and Katie wanted him there, and so I had a good guy to learn from. He taught me about the importance of not just my team, but the game. He taught me the importance of our league. And so I've been where all these guys have been. They're maybe no better than me, but they're no worse than me either. You know, I've been there. Pat's had a couple tough times, but he's done a damn good job too. And some of these other coaches have really done some incredible things. Sometimes you get bad luck, you know, injuries. So yeah, I talked to Chris Collins, or I talked to Richard. I respect this league so much that if the league does better, Michigan State does better. And it's just like I feel about football. If football at my school does better, I'm not jealous of it. I think it makes me better. And so I take that. That's the best compliments I can have. If that meant that much to him that he told you that, I'd say that makes me excited. You're welcome.
Coach, Cassius named first team All-American last year. Returns, not very common in this day and age of college basketball. What does that say about him that when the other 4 guys on the first team went in the first round, he's back here for his senior year? And obviously, what does that say about him?
It says 2 things. I mean, let's face it, Cassius is a different kind of player. It's not Zion, you know? But also, he's got a mother that puts academics about as high as you can put it. And, I mean, it was the game plan from day one. Graduate in 3 years, try to finish your master's in that time. That was the game plan from day one. He actually is on that road right now. And so it is odd that a kid comes back like that. Some of his measurables and things dictate some of that. But I think the other thing that dictated is he's not just about basketball. And so you put the 2 together, I think he still has some things he knew he had to get better at. That's the most important. Trying to win a national championship is not a good reason to come back. You know, in 2009, North Carolina did it, but it's so hard to do that. You know, others haven't. So I'm more excited that he came back to get better. Felt like he needed to get better in some areas. Please his mother.
Would you say it speaks to his dedication to finishing things out as a whole rather than just the basketball sense?
Very good phrase. Very good phrase. Maybe even finishing the basketball thing out. Trying to finish it out. Trying to finish the academic thing out. That's a good phrase.
I spent a lot of time with Cash this summer, and he talked about, someone asked him about coming back for a national title, and he said he thinks that that's a joke narrative.
Yeah.
That in America we've devalued education. He said, I didn't make a bad choice. I get to come back and I get to go to Michigan State. Well, how refreshing is that, Tom? You called him your superstar that doesn't know it.
Yeah, that is refreshing because there is other things in life besides basketball. Now, as my 3 L's go, do you like it, do you love it, or do you live it? You got to love and live if you're going to be a great player or you're going to be a championship team. If you just like the game, that's not good enough either. So you have to put more into it. But balance is very important in life. I don't always have great balance. And I think he's got about as solid a balance as many players that I've had.
Xavier said that he wanted to become a better post scorer this year. Is there an area where you see you can take a major step forward?
I think it has to. You know, he has worked on it, but it has to take a major step. He had to get better in that area. He worked on his three-point shot a lot last summer, but he's still got to score in the post, and he's a very good free throw shooter, so he needs to get fouled. You don't get fouled out on the three-point line. He's a very good rebounder. And 13 rebounds against Syracuse. Last year he started playing outside a little bit more, forgetting he's got to get back in there and get those rebounds. You know, if Xavier makes it to the next level, it's going to be because of his rebound and his defense. They're going to find as good or better shooters, and then he's scoring. So, yeah, I think Xavier is, you know, everybody has these dreams of what you want to accomplish, but I think my guys are pretty realistic. You know, Aaron Henry we hardly talk about, and Aaron Henry he might be as close to a good a pro prospect as I have if you looked at measurables, if you wanted to look at reach, athleticism, things like that. Aaron Henry's a special kid. So, we'll just see what happens.
Tom, first off, she had a question first.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You gotta learn to be more aggressive like him. I meant that in positive.
You got a chance to know.
Manners is going to get you nowhere in your profession. You got to just throw it all to the wind, man. But go ahead.
Well, I find that people like me better if I have manners. And
okay.
People like me better.
just giving you my perspective.
I appreciate that, Coach. You got a chance to know Coach Hoiberg this past season, obviously spending some time with his son. What did you see out of him? What kind of coach do you think he'll be?
I loved him. I watched him as a coach at Iowa State, of course. I watched him with the Bulls. What I loved is he reminds me a lot of a guy he played for, Flip Saunders, at Minnesota. You know, you get him in the room, and all of a sudden he's up on a chalkboard, and there's 10,000 plays and 9,000 ways to guard something. I just love that stuff, and I think Freddie's incredible. He's got a great offensive mind to things. You know, was a very good player, but he's got a better demeanor than mine. He's really got a good demeanor, and I think he's going to do great there. I think, you know, there's fits, okay? And I think sometimes we all take jobs, just like there's fits even for you. Like we got the saying, OKG, our kind of guy. It doesn't mean that a superstar would be as successful at Michigan State as our kind of guy. Well, I think it's the same in jobs you take. There's certain guys, and I've looked at some of the football hires over the years at even our place, but other places, and they weren't a fit for that university. He's a fit for them, and I think they're a fit for him. You know, with his grandfather, with his being from there, with he's got family there, his wife's not far from there. You know, their fan base to me is incredible. So I think Fred's going to do really well there. I think it's the perfect fit, if that makes any sense.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tom, there is no standard basketball in college basketball. Any given night, your guys could use a Wilson, a Nike, an Adidas, an Under Armour. Bo had the Sterling ball, the Rock. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? How can that impact the team potentially?
Well, I think that's how Bo won all those games. That ball wasn't Rock. I think that was Bo's. I'm disappointed in that a little bit. I think there should be some standard. Now, in the NBA, I believe there is standard. In the NFL, I think there is a standard. In college football, I don't think there is.
Home team use their own ball. So Alabama.
Okay, so there's difference. We've got to buy all these balls and buy about 6 of them. We got, as you know, guys that come to practice, we got different balls from different teams we could play, you know. It was good when we played Wisconsin. We just went out in the backyard, got a rock, put it in the ball stand, tried to shoot with it. But all kidding aside, I think that is weird. Our Big Ten tournament, we're playing with a different ball than the NCAA tournament, I think. So nobody's ever asked me a question like that, but I think it's a good question. I'd like to see some uniformity, if that's a word.
You're a month away, so the decision doesn't have to be made today. But if it were, who would be your starting 4 today, with all caveat that it can change in the next month?
Starting 4, give him an extra one, man.
No, I'm saying his 4th.
Starting
the
4.
4. Yeah, who would be your starting 4? And again, I give you full caveat to change it.
If I went right now, it would be between Bingham and Kithier, because a little more experience. Kithier's been, he works with X, probably the best of anybody. Bingham is actually getting better now. There's some question marks with him on defensively, what he can do, what we can do. We haven't had our full team all out there together. Cash was out a couple days with the hammy a little bit, and Josh, some days we didn't practice some, and one day when we were going to put them together, Bingham had the flu. So, we're only in day 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we've only had 4 practices. By next week, though, that has to get ironed out. If you ask me next week, I'll really give you an answer, because I don't think we can let it go till a week before the season, I think we got to get somebody in there, because whoever it is, it's going to be inexperienced, and I like to see him playing with those guys. But I do think it's going to be a little bit of a revolving door, meaning we might start the same guy, but we're going to have to... There'd be a lot of rotating at that position.
With the 5 too, because Kithier, I would assume, would be 5. So you're kind of using them.
And what's name can play the 4.
Joey, are you still waiting on that? Is it official yet? Do you know?
It's not official, but it doesn't look very good. And that would have made it easier than I would have given you an easy answer.
Coach, I have one more question about Fred. Do you feel like the Big Ten has been more like quick systems, fast up-tempo systems work better in the Big Ten now than maybe a couple years ago?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
I mean, everybody kind of hit me on, why did you play this way? We didn't play that way. You played Wisconsin, they were going to walk it up. You played Northwestern, they were going to walk it up. You played Penn State, they were going to walk it up. So now I think there's a lot more quick-hitting systems out there, which I think is good for our league, because I do think it hurt us in recruiting a little bit for a while. I do. So I think that feeds right into Fred, but I think that feeds into a lot of us now that want to play a little bit more that way.
Thanks for you. How has it been to have Tommy back? How has he been adjusting? Is it kind of a roll in progress?
It is a roll in progress. He too, he couldn't get his card or whatever, Tum we're talking about. So he was supposed to come in June. He ends up coming late in August. So he missed the whole summer. Even for a coach, that's a problem. But he is just such a treat to have there every day, He's a great grad manager because he never has a bad day. He's really good with all the guys, and he knows everything. And he's been a year in the pros, so he knows the pluses and the downfalls of that. So I've been really excited with him and Chris. They're just great guys, and they've been great for our players.
When you have a player like Cash, which you talk about his kind of family support system and all the help they provided, how much does that help a player when you find that they have that available?
Oh, God, it helps a lot. Because if they don't have that, there's so many other sharks out there looking to be part of the family, part of the posse. So the family thing is really, really important, I think. And his in particular, he's got a couple uncles that come by. I mean, it's really cool. So he's got a great support group. But still, at the end of the day, you got to do your job, and you got to, they're not playing for you, but they help you in the prep to it. So his has been great. I'm sorry?
How'd that Albion game come about?
That was just me, yeah. Me and KP, I think it was, the Albion. We just, KP said something about when his brother was up one day, wouldn't that be a cool thing? And a little different, I'm not sure it'll be as good a competition, but how often do you get three brothers on the floor at the same time? And sometimes guys that have given you a lot, you give back to them a little bit. Draymond, that one year I did one with his brother who was in Nebraska, Omaha, and I figure that sometimes I owe those guys too. And we're going to scrimmage we're going to have a scrimmage against somebody.
Cash got teary-eyed.
Not everybody has the built-in brother thing like Kyle.
Yeah, right.
That was cool for them.
It really was.
Cash got teary-eyed in appreciation to you when that was announced that he was going to get to play his brothers.
I think that was a big deal to him, because I think sometimes people think I'm not a human being, Sometimes I don't feel like a human being, but for the most part I do think about things like that. They do matter to me because I have my own family, I have my own kids. It's not that big a deal because it's the right thing to do. Just not everybody does the right thing.
Are these three officially your captains? Have you voted yet?
We haven't voted yet, but I'm 90% sure it will, but we're going to vote next week.
Could you just talk a little bit about what you thought of Coach Beilein's departure? Obviously, he had a huge impact on Michigan and the Big Ten, and then maybe what advice would you give to Juwan Howard in kind of succeeding him down the road?
Well, and John, I think we had a great relationship because, as I always said, it's the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's always going to be. But there was great respect. He knew I did it the right way, and I knew he did it the right way. And he will be missed, And was I surprised? Not really, because I think he got frustrated with some things too. I don't think it was just I'm dying to go to the pros. I think it is some of the problems that we're all having. And he had an opportunity and he jumped on it. And I I respect that totally. It wasn't surprising to me. It wasn't, did I think he was going to do it? No. Did I was surprised that he did? No. As far as Juwan goes, I talked to him last night a little bit about what do you think's harder, going from college to pro or pro to college? I'm convinced I think it's harder to go from pro to college because we got so many different things. I mean, in pro ball, everything's not his fault. Here, guy leaves his garbage in the hallway, it's my fault, So there's a lot of those things are going to be really different. There's a lot more people tugging at you. It was fun to go to the Pistons practice and see them talk before, talk after basketball. We're talking recruiting, talking problems, talking this, talking that. They don't do that. I think that was intriguing to John. It'll be interesting to see how Juwan handles that. I think he's good enough to handle it. And I think he worked in a system that is about as college-y a system with Pat Riley as you can get. But it's still a big difference.
And then how do you think
I'm sorry, I got to pull him. I got to keep him on.
How do you think having veteran players like Xavier Simpson, Isaiah Livers, how do you think that will help Juwan?
Well, I think they're one of the teams that, they got 3 very experienced, really good players. So, I think Michigan's another team that could be really, really good. They're just question marks because of different coach. But it'll probably be a different system. John had a unique system. So I'm sure Juwan's will be different. But I think anytime you got a Simpson and a Teskey, you got a chance to be good. And I think Isaiah, I think he has a chance to be a star player, not just a good player. He's got to take another step up. All right, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Sorry, guys.